Woman's friend wants to cook meat in her vegan home. AITA December 12, 22. Originally posted by you, throwaway 0093467 in r. Am I the Asshole on December 11, 22. Updated December 12, 22. Original post. AITA for asking my friend not to cook beef burgers in my home. I, 29F, have been friends with Jane, 29F, for most of my life. She is like a sister to me. Jane is not vegan, but my family and I are. My mother is especially strict about animal products being brought into the house, and I share her values. This has never been an issue, and Jane and her family have always been accommodating and mindful of this. Obviously, Jane was welcome to wear whichever clothes she wanted in our home, but my mom asked that if she wanted to eat at ours, that she ate our meals, or if she wanted to bring snacks, that they were free of animal products. This was never an issue. Fast forward to last weekend. Jane has recently started dating Brian, 34M. They live about 3 hours away from me, so I offered to host them for the weekend. They arrived late on Friday, and I had already cooked and had dinner ready. They both seemed happy with the food. However, the morning after I wake up and they are gone. I message Jane and she tells me they left to get groceries. I thought it was a little weird since my fridge was packed, but didn't question it. When they came back, I see that they have brought beef burgers and expected to be able to cook them for lunch. I was a bit surprised and asked Jane if she had forgotten about my rule. She sheepishly admits that no, she hadn't. She just didn't think I would mind this one time. Brian is one big question mark. I thought about dropping it, but it made me uncomfortable. Not just because I don't like the food myself, but because she went behind my back and put me in an awkward position with her new partner. I pulled her aside and told her as much, and she begged me to drop it. Turns out she hadn't told Brian about my boundaries on this because they are embarrassing. I reiterated that the boundaries were still in place and kindly asked her to not cook the food in my home. I offered to go out and get plant-based burgers instead, but she doubled down and called me a weirdo and stuck up. This was a shock to me because never in my 20-plus years of knowing her has she ever mentioned this being an issue, and TBH, her words hurt. I told her to please pack her stuff and leave. She stormed off and told Brian they were leaving. She later texted me calling me an asshole for embarrassing her. Brian, bless his heart, had absolutely no idea about what was going on. I don't blame him for bringing the food into my house, but Jane should have known better. I feel bad about the fight. I know my rules are not conventional and likely feel strange and inconvenient to those who have different dietary requirements. With that said, no one is forced to stay at my house and my boundaries are clear. I don't know if I should have dropped this or not. AITA? Edit. If anyone is interested, then I've posted an update to this on my profile. Thanks. Update the next day. I know Reddit appreciates updates, so I thought I'd give you one. Thanks to everyone who took the time to engage with the post, I appreciate it. This happened last weekend, and due to the character limit on the post, I didn't include any of our communications this week after the fact. I host dinner parties for friends and family on the regular. My guests know to expect fully vegan meals. I'm a rather good cook, though I say so myself and take pride in my dishes. I regularly do full Indian dinners, Mediterranean, with a twist, Chinese, or even just everyday comfort foods like mac and cheese, homemade soups and bread, Italian, and there's always desserts. There's quite some misconception in place around vegan cuisine, and that it's nothing more than rabbit feed and tofu. I enjoy introducing people to the other side, the one with spices. No one leaves my home hungry unless they really want to. As I mentioned in the previous post, Jane and Brian left mine on Saturday. Jane messaged me soon after they left, and she was too emotional for me to want to respond. I was also in a bit of a shock, so I thought it would be best to cool off and have the conversation later. On Sunday evening I called her only for her to hang up on me. I messaged her and asked her to give me a call when she was ready. On Wednesday she called me, and to make a long story short, she expected me to apologize. I told her that I was sorry the trip ended this way, but I wasn't sorry for enforcing rules in my own home, rules that she has known and followed since she was 9. She kept fighting me on it and insisted that it was a stupid rule and that people eat meat. Get over it. I simply responded with, "Not in my home, they don't." She then hung up again. On Friday morning I woke up to a Facebook message request from Brian. I accepted it and he thanked me for hosting them and apologized for overstepping. I assured him that he did nothing wrong, and if Jane hadn't told him, there was no way for him to know. As a side note, I cooked spaghetti bolognese for them on Friday, and apparently he didn't even realize it wasn't vegan. Perhaps I should have told him it was, but according to Jane he had no allergies, so I just cooked and served. They both enjoyed the meal. Afterwards we had sorbet and black coffee, and no comments there either. Brian then told me that she had indeed told him. Side note in case this is confusing. Brian didn't respond with this information until after I had posted my first post. He works long hours and we wrapped up our Friday chat last night when he had time to chat. The morning after I slept in and they woke up before me and helped themselves to breakfast in my downstairs kitchen. He had asked for milk in his coffee and she told him I only had oat. That sparked a conversation and she told him I'm vegan. According to him, he didn't mind. He then suggested that they go out and shop for lunch and cook for us. During that shopping trip he suggested burgers and Jane said it was fine. They got beef and got me plant-based sausages. Once they arrived at mine and he saw how uncomfortable I was, he realized that Jane hadn't been honest. Hence him looking like a walking question mark. I can only imagine how uncomfortable he must have felt standing like this in someone else's home with nowhere else to go and no real rapport with the homeowner. At this point in the conversation I was getting upset. Jane had knowingly put us into this position and embarrassed everyone. There was no need for this, and if Brian is to be believed, then he had no problem with eating vegan for the weekend. I thanked him for contacting me and told him I'd have a word with Jane. He asked me to let him have a word with her first to make sure there was no misunderstanding on his part. Well, apparently Brian wasn't happy with this either and he broke things off with Jane today. She called me absolutely hysterical this morning and told me that they had had a massive fight last night that lasted well into the morning. He stormed out and told her it was over. I tried my best to console her, but she is very hurt and shocked. I told her to get some sleep and call me again later in the day. Around 4 p.m. she called me again and apologized. She didn't get into the nitty-gritty of the fight, but it turns out that their relationship, albeit short, has been on shaky legs for a couple of weeks. She admitted that she does indeed think I'm a little stuck up for my rules, but doesn't say anything, since it's never been a real inconvenience for her. Wanting to keep Brian happy, she just went along with his suggestions at the grocery store and hoped I'd make an exception. She's angry with us both for going behind her back to discuss it, but after I sent her the conversation I had with Brian, she said she understood. So that's where we are right now. Jane is my oldest and best friend and she made a bad call. She was feeling stressed about her relationship and struggling to keep face, and she lashed out. I can forgive that, and I will. I have invited her to come over between Christmas and NY so we can heal our friendship. Damn, why the hell would she not tell her BF? Oh, she doesn't like when there is meat in the house. Like, how little did she think about her BF that he would act like an ass over it? I'm betting Jane making decisions like this is a large part of why her relationship was on shaky ground. Man, Oop is nicer than me for sure. At this point it's not even the meat thing. Which was hella disrespectful. But that after 20 plus years of friendship, she's willing to put a new boyfriend's imagined wants over her generous friend's needs. I'm too old and have seen that pattern too many times of a friend totally disappearing on me for a new man. Or putting me behind whatever man is currently in her life. Often these men don't even ask them to. Women are just socialized to do that. I won't put up with any of it anymore. Oop handled it maturely. Her friend screwed up badly once. It was an aberration. That relationship was already shaky ironically. It probably wouldn't have been an issue for Jane's ex if she'd said no meat. Glad Oop isn't losing a friendship over this. Communication for the win. Talk about making a mountain out of a molehill. OOP's veganism wasn't a problem for anyone until Jane made it one. I wonder why Jane decided to take a stand against OOP's rule. Which I find perfectly reasonable. Now? A person's house has their rules and you respect that or find another place to go. I want the bolognese recipe. Imagine being called stuck up for having boundaries in your own home. I don't understand why people go so crazy over vegan food. I'm an omnivore but have no issue with other people's dietary choices. And if I'm dining with a vegan friend or staying at their house, I don't feel at all deprived or disrespected by abiding by their rules and eating plant-based dishes. And yes, this extends to holiday meals too. The friend is lucky she still has Oop after being such an idiot. My friend is vegan and when I was stopping by one night I brought a pizza for me to eat, but I asked her first if it was okay to be a meaty one and she was fine with it, but equally if she had said no, then I'd have brought a plain one. When I have a party I always make sure there's a vegan option for her. Even if she brings her own food anyway. I would draw the line at black coffee. I need a latte. But not wanting meat cooking in a vegan house is totally fair. Just as I am strictly no smoking and drugs in my house because I'm not comfortable with it. Although I wouldn't ask that to be applied somewhere I was visiting. I want to know how to cook a tasty vegan mac and cheese. What do you use for the sauce? I'm not vegan, but enjoy a well-made vegan dish any day of the week. Honestly, Jane was being a bad friend to Oop. I really do hope this was out of character for her and the two of them can repair their friendship. But if this starts a pattern, I hope Oop is able to let her go. But based on this post, she knows how to stand up for herself and establish boundaries. And honestly, I'm allergic to most vegan protein sources. Peas, soy, nuts. And even I could eat vegan in someone else's home if it was for a couple of days. Then again, this was clearly not about eating meat. Jane only cares about herself. And honestly, as someone who has lost lifelong friends before, it's amazing how much relief you actually feel once they leave your life for good. So strange to me how people think having actual moral convictions that you stick to is stuck up. People don't realize that someone cooking meat in your home is an incredibly uncomfortable experience for plant-based people. The smell alone is usually overwhelming and nauseating. Then you add the lingering tastes and oils if you're using cast iron or wood for cooking. Someone has to do those dishes, which is usually the worst part. So, if you're going to be at a vegan's home and insist on eating meat, just go out. What a weird thing to do on Jane's part. She just completely threw her oldest and best friend under the bus for a man who didn't even want her to. I eat kosher. My way or the highway. Anyone who brings a pork chop or bacon to my house gets shown the door. It's as simple as that. When I go to their homes I eat what I can and avoid the rest. Everyone knows this and it's no big deal. I once house sat for a vegan while she was in Europe for 2 months studying. No meat in the house was one of the rules. Oh man. Do you know how many times I sneakily ate meat in this person's house while they were on another continent with 100% certainty that they will never know? 0 info. What's your vegan mac and cheese recipe?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.